Hello there everyone, and welcome to another slice of Prager FU, the series where I dissect and debunk the paid shill bullshittery of the laughably dreadful YouTube channel which masquerades, rather poorly, as a university, that being PragerU. And when I'm done with them, I crush them with my meaty bear paw like the intellectually floundering salmon that they are, by saying, "Hey Prager! F you." Oh, I'm so fucking clever. And the video we'll be taking a look at today is such a lie that even its title is dishonest. That title being, How to End White Privilege, which you would assume would be a guide to ending white privilege, right? Well, no. In the video, our host, Brandon Tatum, argues that white privilege doesn't even exist, so why the fuck is the video called that? Jesus! But anyways, our black human shield, I mean of course, a host for the video, is literally a fucking cop. They felt the need to tell us that at the start of the video, at the bottom of the screen the first time he appears. I think that's to tell your average PragerU video that, don't worry, he is black, but he's one of the good ones, right? So if you could try not to leave too many overtly racist comments about him under the video, that'd be just super duper, thanks. And Brandon also used to work over at Turning Point USA as their Director for Urban Engagement, which might as well read Director for Talking to the Blacks because we don't want to. Good job at not tokenising there, Charlie, you small-faced little freak.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank.
Anyways, let's take a look at this garbage, shall we?
Woke white people, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please stop asking for forgiveness for your white privilege.
And we have our first straw man, starting very early. Solid Prager-Ewing, Mr. Tatum. Look, nobody is asking for forgiveness for anything, you lying arsehole. Recognising white privilege is about seeing the ways in which a society benefits you as a white person and working to dismantle those systems. I have never seen a single goddamn person ask for forgiveness for their white privilege. Although the internet does have some weird people, so maybe there's like one out there or something. But even if there are any, they are a statistically irrelevant number, so you know, shut the fuck up. Although, I don't even know why I'm bothering to say that, as I know you don't actually stop using this shit in the video, but whatever.
You're not fooling anybody. You're not helping black people or any other minority. And your public confessions don't make you look virtuous. They make you look disingenuous, which is a really nice way of saying fake, phony, and fraudulent.
Firstly, you're doing a PragerU video, Mr. Tatum. You are in no position to be accusing others of being disingenuous, or fake, or phony, or fraudulent, because all of those words should be next to PragerU in a thesaurus. And secondly, there are many people of colour who appreciate white people working to dismantle systems of oppression. And note there that I use the phrase people of colour, because in this video you acknowledge the existence of white people and black people, forgetting that of course in America, and indeed around the world, there are a huge array of different groupings and identities of people who are subject to systems of privilege one way or the other. Oh, there I go again, acting as if PragerU would be remotely bothered by nuance or actually understanding any of the complexities of an issue. Silly me.
For starters, what is white privilege anyway? Because you're born with white skin, you have all these advantages that I don't have?
Well, when socioeconomic position is taken into account, yes.
Like what? Like you can get a mortgage loan that I can't get? I got a loan. At a great rate, by the way.
So chalk one up in the personal anecdote column. Look, just because it happened to you doesn't mean it would happen for black people in general. Plus, the systems of oppression that fuck over black Americans every day aren't going to affect you as much because you're a rich person and an ex-cop. You're a core part of the system, for fuck's sake.
And I got the house. Why would a banker not give a loan to someone who met the loan requirements? He doesn't want to make money?
And in Jim Crow America, why would a restaurant owner not serve a black person? What, does he not want to earn that guy's money or something? Look, you corporate shill motherfucker, you should know that capitalist arseholes like, say, fracking billionaires the Wilks brothers, the ones who fund PragerU and whose blood money you're currently indulging in, yeah, those kinds of people obviously don't just care about the money. They also care about other things, like preserving racism and shit. You of all people should know that, as they are using you as a black human shield in a racist way in this very video. Look, Brandon, if capitalism could have ended racism, it would have done. But it hasn't. Kinda seems like capitalism maybe has a vested interest in keeping systems of oppression going on and on forever, which by the way is why it's fundamentally anti-human.
Or how about this? You can enter a store and not be looked upon with suspicion, but I, a black person, cannot? Except that has never happened to me.
Yet another personal anecdote, and it's no less not a fucking argument than it was the first time. Do you think, Brandon, that maybe just because it hasn't happened to you doesn't mean it might not have happened to millions of Americans all the fucking time? And maybe, just maybe, being a former cop, you carry yourself in a way which seems more authoritative and less suspicious, and that's why it hasn't happened to you. Or maybe you're a socially oblivious idiot who doesn't know how to discern when someone is shooting them the old stink eye treatment. Don't know about you, but both of those seem like far more plausible explanations than racism having ceased to exist.
But if I was a young dude with my pants hanging down to my butt, I could understand why the store owner would be concerned. I used to be a cop.
Yes, you are a cunt. You already told us that at the start.
Believe me, I understand. If I owned a store, I'd be tracking that kid too.
Being cautious is one thing. Being a prick to an entire demographic based on the actions of a small number of said demo is quite another. The attitude of the police, exemplified by Tatum here, is very much what's called the law of the instrument, which is more commonly referred to by the phrase, "To the man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail."
But there's another way of looking at this. In many ways, in today's America, blacks have more privilege than whites.
Well, this should be interesting.
It's been my experience that whites bent over backwards to give blacks every possible advantage.
Wow, Prager are getting really fucking lazy. They couldn't even be bothered to come up with a meaningless graph for this bit. Just some hands with the word advantage. Poor form, Prager. Poor form.
If two people are equally qualified for a job, the black person will usually get it.
That's literally just a fucking lie, okay? A study, which, unlike PragerU, I link my shit below, right? A study by Bertrand and Mullainathan, apologies for that pronunciation, found that job applications with traditionally white-sounding names gave a significantly higher callback rate compared to traditionally black-sounding names, which amounted to the difference of 8 extra years of experience. So here, white privilege is the same as having worked 8 fucking years more than a black applicant for doing literally nothing more. Brandon Tatum and PragerU should be fucking ashamed of themselves for having stated the exact opposite of reality as a fact. And I know they won't because it's a cop and PragerU I'm talking about, but whatevs.
Big companies and prestigious universities fall all over one another trying to sign up talented black people.
How then, Brandon, do you account for the fact that between 2010 and 2017, black college enrolment actually fell? It kind of seems that even with affirmative action plans in place, the systems of oppression that you have fought all of your adult life to uphold are being upheld. What a surprise.
If you deny this, you are denying reality, which is what the person who dreamed up this whole thing did. A professor of women's studies at Wellesley College by the name of Peggy McIntosh. She wrote in an article in 1988 about all the white privilege she thought she had. She listed 46, including this one. I can choose bandages and flesh color and have them more or less match my skin. Wow, that's some kind of privilege.
Now here, the propaganda from Prager gets a little more subtle, because yes, Peggy McIntosh did list that as one of the 50 daily effects of white privilege. Not that you'd be able to tell that from PragerU's video, because, surprise, surprise, they leave no fucking links to anything below the video. What utterly lazy and dishonest hacks they are. But I looked it up, because clearly I have nothing better to do than to mop up PragerU's intellectual piss puddles. But anyways, the list entitled Daily Effects of White Privilege is from an article called White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. It's actually quite interesting, and unlike PragerU, I've linked it below so you can go and check it out if you want to. But anyways, PragerU have specifically and purposefully chosen the least consequential item from the list, to make it seem like the list is full of petty and frivolous nonsense and people should just totally ignore it. But that list also contains some incredibly serious topics as well, like these examples.
15. I do not have to educate my children to be aware of systemic racism for their own daily physical protection. 25. If a traffic cop pulls me over or if the IRS audits my tax return, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race. 41. I can be sure that if I need legal or medical help, my race will not work against me.
Now, regardless of whether PragerU or Brandon Tatum believe that those are problems actually faced by black people or not, if they wished to honestly and fairly depict the contents of that article, they would have chosen one of the items from it that were a bit more substantial than the one about flesh-coloured band-aids. But then again, PragerU are not really in the business of fairly or honestly depicting their opponents now, are they?
Today, these so-called progressives dominate our colleges and universities, imposing this absurd notion of white privilege on their students. That's too bad because it does nothing good for white students. and it does nothing good for black students.
And here we see a very typical PragerU tactic, boldly asserting something and then moving on without even attempting to back it up. This time the claim is that educating college students about privilege doesn't help white or black students. Now firstly, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a binary thing. There are also, Hispanic students and First Nation students and Chinese and Japanese descended students and all kinds of fucking different people, Prager, you dickheads. But regardless, it would be good in one of these videos, just one of them, if Prager would make a solid argument and back it up with some fucking evidence. Leave some sources and shit. Is that too much to ask? Is it too much to fucking ask, Dennis?
But of the two, ironically, the white students get the better of the deal. Let me explain. To acknowledge your white privilege is supposed to make you feel bad.
Straw man. It's not supposed to make you feel bad. It's supposed to educate and hopefully motivate you to act. Feeling guilt is useless, self-indulgent fuckery. What oppressed people need is action.
And as a virtue bonus, it also makes you a better person than those whites who don't acknowledge their privilege. White privilege, which is supposed to make you feel bad, ends up making you feel good. Meanwhile, the real damage is to blacks. What makes whites feel good makes blacks angry.
What the fuck are you even talking about now? That's just racist gibberish, you stupid bastard.
More than 50 years after the civil rights movement, the message is, you're still oppressed. How can this not create a victim mentality?
How ludicrous that in this video, you, Brandon Tatum, would accuse others of having a victim mentality, considering you have literally said the following.
Being a Trump supporter is the new gay. People are strategically waiting for the right moment to come out to the world. Some will be rejected by family and friends. Some will be alienated from jobs and opportunities where intolerance runs rampant.
So you're a massive fucking hypocrite then, Brandon. You'll fit in very nicely at PragerU. Although you'll probably still have to use that different drinking fountain at Prager HQ, but anything to take away the taste of boot leather, I suppose.
And here's the kicker. Even if it were true, all those claims about white privilege, so what?
And there we have the ultimate mask slip moment from PragerU. Their message is simple. Black people, just shut up and accept your oppression, because black people wanting rights makes Big Daddy Den-Den's Winky feel sad. And on that horrific mental image of Dennis Prager's saggy, wrinkly old cock, we shall conclude our Prager perusal. And where to even begin with this utter fucking bullshit? I guess firstly it's worth pointing out that personal anecdotes and straw manning aren't intellectually honest pursuits, which is probably why you see so much of them in PragerU videos. But I suppose the overarching point I want you to take away from this one is that obviously white privilege exists. You can argue about to what extent and what people should do about it, but the mere fact of its existence is as blatantly obvious as the earth being round, by which I mean only fucking cranks would disagree. Yes, I'm talking about you, Dennis. And in terms of black people's thoughts on the topic, Brandon is an outlier, as well as just being a liar, in the African American community on this one. I'll leave some links to videos below which explain in greater detail the kinds of fuckery black folk have to put up with in everyday life, which shows that Brandon, and PragerU more generally, are just full of shit. And of course, Prager just love playing the victim on behalf of white people, and on this occasion cynically exploited a black guy to front that shit, which is all pretty despicable. So, hey Prager, F you. So fucking clever.
Hello everyone, this is Kev talking to you from 6 months after the main body of this episode was scripted and recorded and all that jazz. That's because this was originally meant to come out in January of 2020, but some Nazis attacked my channel with a false flagging campaign, and of course YouTube sided with the Nazis. I mean, what else were they going to do? Something not repulsively disgusting? Pfft, please, listen to yourself. So I had to mothball the channel and wait out the 3 months for the strikes to run out and be removed from the channel. And then laziness delayed me a little bit more, and so here we are with a video being released in June of 2020. Now there are 2 reasons I'm telling you all of this, both of which relate to the murder of George Floyd and the protests which followed from that. Firstly, as this video is at least in part about race relations and policing in America, I didn't want people to think that I'd jumped on a bandwagon. It just so happened that the timings of when I originally recorded, and now, happened to fall either side of that tragic event. And a quick shout out to the fantastic YouTuber Mexi for recording the quotes from the white privilege article. Lo, those many months ago, all the way back in January. So thank you to Mexi, and her channel is linked below. Go and subscribe forthwith. And secondly, in the aftermath of Mr. Floyd's murder and the resultant atmosphere around some of the topics touched upon in this video, the originally planned satirical/comedic ending to this video just didn't seem appropriate at this time. So instead of that, as you can now see, scrolling by on the screen, are a list of names. A very, very long list of names. These are all the people that have been killed by police in America in 2020, or at least up to the 14th of June of this year. And these are the ones for which we actually have a name thus far. There are about 70 others who are yet to be identified for various reasons, so I've left those out because I don't have a name to put up on the screen. But just know that those people exist too. And the number next to each name refers to the age of the person at the time that they were killed by those who were supposed to be protecting them. Now, many of you might not necessarily want to sit through this long ass list, so what you could be doing during that time is going to the description box below this video to check out the links to sites where you can donate financially to legal funds and mutual aid societies set up by awesome peeps who are helping out those affected in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd. Also below, I have left links to a number of awesome content creators of colour who you should definitely go and subscribe to and watch their content, because listening to what marginalised people have to say is pretty important too. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking now, but this list has some ways to go. So I'll just say rest in peace to all of these people scrolling by on the screen, and I sincerely hope that their families and friends can get justice. Goodbye.